Hey everybody, and welcome back to Jewelry with Jen. I am Jen, and I am back with a fun bracelet project today. And so we are going to get into it, guys. So welcome aboard. Thank you for those of you that are new to my channel. Welcome, and welcome back to all my subscribers. If you're not yet subscribed, you may want to hit that subscribe button and then give me a like and thumbs up if you think I deserve it, and leave comments so we can keep that YouTube algorithm happy. So, my friends, what you will need are just really about 4 or 5 supplies for a goddess bracelet. So you can use any beads, okay? And for a goddess bracelet, we're going to be jump ring heavy, okay? Beads today. So any beads you want, they just all have to be the same size. And then, of course, your jump rings, and then you'll need a clasp. And I'm going to use a magnetic clasp because I like using these on my bracelets. They make them so easy. And then, of course, we're going to use a couple of crimps, bronzes, and then we can use tiger tail. And then you're going to use your standard tools. So you'll need a cutter. You'll need a pair of crimpers. We might not even need our chain nose. And then, of course, you're going to need a ruler. Okay? The video. So what we do, guys, is let's get our wire cut first. And so what we do, guys, is on the ruler, we'll measure like 2 inches, you know, past at least the ruler. So in other words, 14 inches, okay? And then we're going to double that. That's how we get going, is we just give ourselves a very generous amount of wire, guys. So we have doubled our wire, okay? You see how I've doubled my wire here? Okay. And it is about probably 2.5, 3 inches past my ruler. And then I'll go ahead and cut it off the spool. And you can use pretty much any kind of wire you want. And then I'll just flush cut. Make sure my ends are flush cut. We're just going to go ahead to start this out. Okay. What we're going to do is we are going to put our clasp on, and I already fed my jump rings on my clasp. Okay. And we're going to feed the clasp down. Okay. And then we're going to grab the ends of our wire. Let's push them together. Okay. And now we're going to center our clasp, or center our wire. Okay. And now what we're going to do, and so we have our clasp right there. Okay. And then what we're going to do is, keeping our wires together, we're going to feed on a crimp on both wires. So I'm keeping both wires together, and I'm going to feed that crimp on. I'm going to try to keep my wires together at the top and let that crimp come all the way down. And I'm going to push that crimp all the way down as good as I can get it. Okay, and we'll go ahead and just give that nice crimp. And I always do my tug test. Make sure that my crimp's not going anywhere. And so that's what we have, guys, to get ourselves started. Okay. And then we're going to just do one bead, keeping our strands together. So again, keep your strands together and get any bead you want and put that bead through both strands and go ahead and let it drop. Now we put that bead on. We've got both of our wires together here. And you know who's on the prowl, by the way, in case she jumps up here. I'm telling you right now. Okay, and so now what we're going to do, guys, is we are going to take and we're going to grab either side of the wire to get started. So we're going to feed a bead on one wire, and then we grab both wires, put them together, and put the jump ring through both wires. Let it go down. Now grab the opposite wire of what the bead that you just put on. So I just put my bead on this strand, so now I'm going to grab this strand and I'm going to put on a bead. I'm going to put my strands back together, and I am going to feed on a jump ring. And now I am going to grab the opposite wire of what I just fed the last bead on, which is this side. I'm going to feed on a bead on just that one wire, grab both wires, put them together, and put on a jump ring. Now grab the opposite of what I just did, which is this side. I'll put a bead on, put both my wires together, and feed a jump ring on both my wires. And that is essentially the pattern of what we do, guys. And it's starting to already shape up. You see that? Okay. So you're essentially, that's why I say you have to kind of pay attention to what you're doing, especially if you're doing an asymmetrical, but we're using the same beads, so that's helps our cause be a little bit easier. And so that's what we're doing, guys. So essentially what we're doing is we are feeding on, every time we feed on a bead, we're feeding it on an alternating strand, alternating wire. And in between each bead, every time we feed on a bead, we put our wires together, and then we put on a jump ring. And then we take the wires apart, go to the alternating wire, feed on a bead, put the strands back together, and put on a jump ring. And that's essentially what we're doing. Okay? And so you just have to, like I said, just be a little mindful of, what you're doing, because it's, once you start getting going, it'll, make sense. And it'll start to shape up and be awesome. But if you're not really paying attention, you can easily, forget to put a jump ring in between two beads, or put the same, two beads on the same strand, so that's what I mean by you kind of have to really be present and focused in your moment with your beads on this style of a bracelet. Many types of jewelry are like that. Another type would be like the ladders I do. Those are also awesome. I need to make another ladder bracelet. I love those ladder bracelets. And so just like we started it off, guys, on your last bead, right, we are going to put our wires together, feed one bead through both wires, okay, just like that. Then we're going to go ahead and keep our wires together and feed our crimp on. Okay, let that slide down. And now we will grab our other part of the clasp. Let's get that fed on there. And now what's easy on the second part, guys, is a little bit different, but it's easy, is we're going to end up making sure that we crimp both of our wires, and then we're going to get rid of one before we fold it through, okay? Or we're not going to fold both through. So I'm only going to grab one wire. So it doesn't matter which one. So just grab one wire and then go around your clasp, right? And then move it out of the way. And then let's feed the crimp through the first, the tail. Let's feed the tail through the crimp and the first bead, okay? And then we'll go ahead and pull that tail. And we have this other piece over here, okay? And we're just going to make sure that we're laying the way we need to be laying. And let's see here. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, and then, before I crimp that, I'm going to put it right on my wrist. Make sure, yep. Okay, very good. And now we can safely crimp. So we're going to crimp that off. I'm going to give it one squeeze. And then I'm going to get that tail out of my way. Okay, so that one's gone. And now we will twist our crimp to the side like we normally do. And give that a second squeeze, do our tug test, make sure that's good, it is. And now we'll go ahead and flush cut that wire. So that goes bye-bye. And there we go, guys. And that's what we made. A beautiful two-tone jade goddess bracelet. I love it. Super, super easy, guys. Not terrible, right? Look how cool that looks. So cool. Love these goddess bracelets. Just so many ways you can do them. And that ended up being, you know, like I said, you saw me, use my wrist as a measurement, but it ended up being, with our clasp, it's about 7.5. Yeah, it's right around 7.5 with our clasp. But if you're making it for yourself, you can always just use your wrist as your guide. And there we go, guys. And so there is a goddess bracelet using these gorgeous jade beads. I hope you guys had fun and enjoyed. Isn't this beautiful for this time of year? Oh my gosh, I cannot. There's 3 different ones right there. I made these, if you guys want to check out these videos, a couple of months ago. It'll be in my bracelets playlist on these 2 particular styles of goddess bracelets. But I just had to do something with these jade beads. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, friends, be blessed.